Chapter 11, Blood. Blood has several functions. One is transportation. Nutrients and oxygen are taken to cells through the blood, and waste are carried away from cells in the blood. Blood acts to transport the white blood cells that protect us against disease-causing organisms, and also is the mechanism by which hormones are transported to the target cells. As protection, blood contains clotting mechanisms that prevent excessive blood loss when a vessel breaks. As regulation, to control the pH, they contain buffers that regulate the acid-base balance of the body fluids. Regulation of temperature, they help to regulate body temperature by absorbing heat from metabolic regions and distributing that heat to the skin where the heat can be eliminated. The composition of blood consists of plasma and the formed elements. Plasma is the liquid matrix, which makes up about 55% of the blood. Plasma is the medium in which the materials are transported in the blood. Most substances are transported by blood and dissolved in the plasma. Nutrients, simple sugars, amino acids, vitamins, ions such as sodium, potassium, chloride, dissolved gases, carbon dioxide, nitrogen, and a small amount of oxygen, as well as the hormones. Plasma also carries away the metabolic waste, the urea from protein breakdown and uric acid from nucleotide breakdown are transported to the kidneys. Carbon dioxide from cells, from cellular respiration as a waste product, is transported to the lungs and exhaled. The formed elements are the cellular components of the blood, and they make up 45% of the blood. This is an image of a test tube of whole blood. It's placed in a centrifuge, which is just a laboratory device that spins at a very rapid speed. You can see the 55% at the top. That's the medium, the majority of what blood is, where the hormones and nutrients are contained. The formed elements consist of the red blood cells, white blood cells, and the platelets at the bottom. Red blood cells are going to be responsible for transporting oxygen. The white blood cells are the ones that are going to defend our body against disease and infection, and the platelets are going to be essential for blood clotting. The composition of the plasma itself is about 93% water, and the remaining 7% consist of dissolved substances. Pardon me, the ions, the dissolved gases, plasma proteins, and waste products. Pardon me. Plasma proteins are important because they help balance the water flow between the blood and the cells. Without plasma proteins, water would be drawn out of the body by the protein in the cells, resulting in fluid accumulation in tissues and causing swelling. Because, recall back, osmosis goes from an area of lesser solute concentration to an area of greater solute concentration. The general categories of plasma proteins, there's more than 50 plus plasma proteins. The general categories are albumins, which account for approximately greater than 50%. They're important for the blood's water balance and ability. Globulins, which are going to serve to transport lipids and fat-soluble vitamins, as well as some of these globulins are antibodies. And then clotting proteins such as fibrinogen, which protect the body from excessive blood loss. Stem cells, if you recall from Chapter 5, are found within the bone marrow, and they give rise to all the formed elements, to the platelets, to all white blood cells, and to red blood cells. And so this shows the stem cells, or basically, if you recall, are just undifferentiated cells found pardon me, in the red bone marrow, and they give rise to all the formed elements. Formed elements is just a generic term for all blood cells. The stem cells divide, they're erythroblast. The nucleus will be lost. Mature blood cell will be the red blood cell, or also known as erythrocyte. Lymphocytes, monoblast, and myeloblast will mature into the neutrophils, the basophils, the eosinophils, which are granulocyte white blood cells. Agranulocytes are the lymphocytes, and monocytes, white blood cells. And then the megakaryoblast will mature into the platelets, which are going to be essential for blood clotting. Platelets are sometimes also called thrombocytes. They're released into the blood at a rate of approximately 200 billion per day. And once in the blood, they mature in the course of a week, after which they circulate in the blood for about 5 to 10 days. Platelets are fragments of the larger precursor cells called the megakaryocytes on the previous image. They lack a nucleus. White blood cells are also termed leukocytes. They differ from red blood cells and platelets in that white blood cells have a nucleus. They are also produced, of course, in the red bone marrow. One type is also produced in the lymph nodes, and other in lymphatic tissue that we'll talk about in Chapter 13. White blood cells represent less than 1% of the whole blood. White blood cells are not confined to the bloodstream. Pardon me. White blood cells are not confined to the bloodstream circulation and can squeeze through neighboring cells of the blood vessels. The general functions of white blood cells is that they remove waste, toxins, and damaged and abnormal cells. They help defend the body against disease. And some are capable of phagocytosis. This shows the white blood cells that we previously talked about that are not confined, thus they can enter tissue and help fight infection. So they're able to squeeze through. It shows the white blood cell exiting the capillary and squeezing between the cells of the vessel walls into the tissue. White blood cells are basically typed into two types, granulocytes and agranulocytes. Granulocytes just means they possess granules, where agranulocytes do not have granules. Granulocytes are classified on how they stain. Neutrophils do not stain at all. Basophils stain purple, and eosinophils stain pink. So the three granulocytes are neutrophils, basophils, and eosinophils. Neutrophils are the most abundant of the white blood cells. They engulf microbes by phagocytosis, thus they help to curb the spread of infection. After engulfing a dozen or so bacteria, the neutrophil dies, yet still help the body's defense because they release chemicals attracting more neutrophils to that side of that infection. Neutrophils are a component of pus. These are the dead neutrophils, along with the bacteria and cellular debris. And pus, of course, is the liquid associated with infection. Eosinophils, on the other hand, help defend against parasitic worms such as tapeworms and hookworms. Eosinophils also can lessen the severity of allergies. They're capable of engulfing antibody antigen complexes and inactivating inflammatory chemicals. Basophils release the chemical histamine. Histamine attracts other white blood cells, causing the blood vessels to dilate. This dilation increases blood flow to the affected area during inflammatory response, thus bringing in more cells to combat the infection. Basophils also play a role in some allergic reactions. Agranulocytes, the monocytes, include the B lymphocytes and the T lymphocytes. Monocytes are the largest of the formed elements, largest of the formed blood cells. They develop into macrophages. These phagocytic cells engulf invading microbes, dead cells, and other cellular debris. Once they leave the bloodstream and enter various tissues where they are termed macrophages. B lymphocytes are the white blood cells that give rise to plasma cells. These plasma cells in turn produce antibodies which fight against infection. Antibodies are the proteins that recognize specific molecules, antigens, on the surface of invading microbes or other foreign cells. After recognizing the foreign cell by its antigen, the antibodies help prevent it from harming the body. So B lymphocytes give rise to the plasma cells, which in turn give rise to antibodies that help to fight against infection. The T lymphocytes are specialized white blood cells. They kill cells not only recognized as coming from the body or cells, but that are also cancerous. They're composed of several different types that play a role in the body's defense mechanisms, and we will be looking at these more in depth in Chapter 13.